Yo, what's up, everybody? Ghost here, and today I'm bringing you guys another comparison video between the KRIG and XM4. And I wanted to make this video because, if you guys are aware, most of you guys are, in the last update for Warzone, they ended up nerfing the KRIG once again. But this time, instead of nerfing damage, or they did nerf damage, but the biggest thing about this nerf that they did to the KRIG was they actually increased the recoil, which is something that I've been asking for a very long time, because that was the one problem that KRIG had. I think after like 2 or 3 nerfs ago, the damage wasn't even the problem anymore. It was the goddamn recoil, and they finally listened. And they didn't just increase it slightly, bro. The difference between that pre-nerf KRIG and the new nerfed KRIG's recoil pattern is oh my, you're gonna see in a few seconds here. Trust me, it's crazy, and you guys are probably already aware of it. But my God, when they said they nerfed the recoil, they nerfed the recoil, and they also decreased the neck multiplier for the gun, which to me, I don't even think that's really an issue. But yeah, anyways, with that being said, man, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 2,000. Last time I checked, we're like 2 away from 1.84K. So if you can help a brother out, that'd be greatly appreciated. And also, if you guys could do me a favor of following me over at my Twitch channel at @alwaysghost_, that'd be greatly appreciated as well. Road to what, 250, 300. And yeah, man, with that being said, though, let's get into this comparison. And here we have the recoil pattern for the now nerfed KRIG. And when I first saw this recoil pattern, I was in disbelief. Now keep in mind, when the update first dropped, I did use the KRIG, but I didn't actually look at the bitch recoil pattern. And so when I was making this video, and I gotta do these recoil patterns, when I first saw this, man, I was in disbelief. Because if you know anything of the recoil patterns for these weapons, and you are familiar with the KRIG recoil pattern before the nerf, you will know that now it's a completely different weapon. These two guns are now, or I guess the KRIG is just a completely different weapon than what it once was before this nerf. And that's a good thing. I'm actually very happy about this update, or this nerf specifically. My only complaint is that it was 2 nerfs late. I feel like they should have stopped, or actually let me backtrack a little bit. I feel like now it's in a good spot where it requires much more skill to use, but it's weaker now. It's like way too weak for how much you're getting punished by this gun. And again, that's really just all due to the fact that they kept nerfing the damage on this weapon again and again and again. Like, it was, I think, 4 or 5, no exaggeration, nerfs of this gun that all dealt with damage. And it was maybe the first few updates it was about the damage, but realistically, bro, it was just about the recoil. The recoil was just way too like non-existent, way too easy to use this gun, and they finally got it right. It's just that they messed up with the previous updates. And I don't want to seem like I'm complaining about everything, because I'm not going to lie. Every time they make an update on these weapons, I feel like I nitpick everything. And I'm not trying to be like that. But it's just, I feel like they're doing the right things, but they're kind of doing them in different, like, the sequences they're doing them is just kind of incorrect. Like, this recoil nerf was definitely needed. However, it is like 5 nerfs too late. Or, yeah, too late, because this gun is already appreciated. And a lot of the new other ARs are just outgunning now, like the XM4, AK-47. And this weapon, I just don't see a place for it in the meta at all, because you just don't get rewarded for being able to control the recoil. And like, I'm fine with guns having a lot of recoil, but you have to be rewarded. You can't have a gun that shoots marshmallows, and you have to like still do a lot to control it. Like, that's just low. You're putting in way too much effort to not be able to output a lot of damage, and that's kind of how it feels like with the KRIG at the moment. Because I'm not gonna lie, bro, this KRIG is definitely not option 1, definitely not option 1, definitely not option 2, 3. Like, I don't even know if it's a top 5 gun in the game or top 5 primary in the game. Like, I could probably name 5 different. Let me just stop. Let me try to name 5. AK-47, XM4, Stoner, PKM, RAM. Yeah, this gun definitely isn't in the top 5, considering what you got to do to just make it somewhat usable. And even then, like, if you're able to control the recoil, which is not the hardest thing to do, but it's definitely like, you can't let go of that right end, like, you're gonna lose control. But the damage just isn't worth trying to control this gun. It just truthfully isn't. It's kind of like the M13 in a sense. Again, both guns kind of mirroring each other. But yeah, man, I guess with that being said, let's move on over to the XM4 and the stats for both these weapons. And then we have the recoil pattern for the XM4, and the one thing about this XM4 that I like is the fact that this gun isn't a laser beam. This gun is not an easy weapon to shoot with by any means. This gun isn't like a KRIG in terms of a recoil. It's not a ground from back in the day. Like, this gun has recoil, and you have to be able to control this weapon. However, the damage on it is pretty good. And if you guys have been aware of Warzone, if you've been paying attention, you would know that the XM4 right now is the AR on the come up. Some people have been introducing AK-47. I was gonna initially do an AK-47, but the more I looked at people using it or playing Warzone, the more I saw that more people were leaning over to the XM4 than the AK-47. That's not to say that the AK-47 is completely gone. People still use it. I would definitely recommend it as an alternative AR for a Krig, because that gun doesn't have that much recoil as the XM4 does. But honestly, up to you guys, your own personal preference. But the XM4, man, this gun is really, really good, and I'm glad it's getting meta attention in the primary department, because this gun, if you guys are familiar or have been, you know, in tune with the Warzone metas over the course of the last few seasons, this XM4 was actually one of the best secondaries at a time in Warzone. I love the XM4 as a secondary, and I love it as a primary. This gun is really fun to use, and not to mention Dark Aether on this gun looks really good. But yeah, man, this XM4, what can I say? With that being said, though, let's get into the stats. So starting off with the fire rate, we have the 652 RPM for the Krig, and then the 721 RPM for the XM4. Obviously here, man, XM4 has a quicker fire rate than Krig, and it just helps in situations like close to medium range. This gun is actually or the XM4 specifically, is a very good hybrid weapon, hence why it used to be a secondary back in the day. But this gun, bro, like, it can do it all. It truthfully can do it all. And at range, it definitely has the capabilities of being at range. Now, I'm not gonna lie, in some scenarios, this gun doesn't really hit at, like, when it's super far away, like, your bullets might not even feel like they'll get there, and it just won't be hitting them. Maybe it's because I'm using the task force barrel, maybe because I'm not using the longest barrel, maybe that's why it feels like that, who knows. But I don't know, man. This gun is still really good though at every range. Definitely a model hybrid gun. The Krig, on the other hand, more like a stationary long range weapon, not necessarily meant to be used for close to mid range, but you know, if the situation calls for it, you might just have to. And moving on over to the damage profiles for both these weapons. Again, the Krig did receive a neck multiplier nerf, not a neck damage nerf itself. And what I mean by that is, right now the Krig's damage to the neck is 31, and in this update they didn't increase damage itself, they just increased the multiplier. But just overall, it's weaker in the neck area, weaker in general, and yeah, anyway. Again, with 0.34 meters for the Krig, we have 42 damage to the head, 31 to the neck and chest, and then 29 to the stomach and extremities in the limbs. And then for the XM4, with 0.22 meters, we have 45 damage to the head and neck, 30 to the chest, stomach, and extremities. And as you guys can see, bro, the damage for that close range, the XM4 definitely outguns the Krig. And to be honest, I think it just comes down to more than the damage. Just everything about the XM4 is just suited for close range. So I don't think there's too much discussion there. Moving on over for the long or medium range, I guess, for the Krig, 34 to 56 meters, we have 37 damage to the head, 27 to the neck, chest, and then 25 to the stomach and extremities. And then for 22 meters and above for the XM4, we have 40 damage to the head and neck, 27 to the chest, stomach, and extremities, and then back again to the Krig. For 56 meters and above, we have 34 damage to the head, 25 to the neck, chest, stomach, and extremities. And again, man, the XM4, a lot more powerful and long range. And if the Krig didn't receive this recoil nerf, I could still argue that the Krig would maybe be the better option for some, because you don't have to like control the recoil as much. But now that both these guns are kind of even in the whole recoil department, I would say that the XM4 is definitely the much better choice, specifically also because the Krig received a lot of just other different damage nerfs over time, like minimum damage, maximum damage, like everything about it just has been torched. And the XM4, it received a little bit of a nerf, I think, in the mid-season update, if I recall. That's when it quote-unquote got, well, it did get killed from the secondary category in that mid-season update back in season 4. But now that a gun like the Krig, which was arguably the best AR, or at least the most used AR, it's just the XM4 has now the opportunity to shine, and it is shining right now because it is by far the go-to weapon for most people, or at least from what I've seen in the last few days since these updates been out. Many people have leaned over to the XM4, and I actually enjoy it. Like, I feel like this gun isn't one of those cheese weapons that has no recoil, so if I see anyone complaining about the gun being too easy to shoot, that's a problem. I'm not saying it's the hardest gun in the world to shoot, but it's definitely not on the Krig level of being easy, or even C58 pre-nerf. So I'm actually kind of happy, excited for this meta, because yeah, I mean, it could be a little weird right now because we only have like the XM4 and maybe a few other ARs, but I don't know if we can go in that right direction where recoil plays a factor in these guns now. I'll be greatly happy, because man, no recoil metas aren't really fun, or I don't know, they're just not. you guys have seen it. The past few seasons we've endured these metas where guns are too easy to shoot, and it's quite frustrating. I know some of you guys, you little Timmies out there, do need the extra help, but man, like, it doesn't kill you out to use your right analog. You camping anyway, just put it down on your right analog. But anyways, man, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys think about the XM4, and do you guys think it is the true best AR at the moment? Actually, just in general, let me know what are your go-to ARs now that the Krig's been nerfed, and it's pretty much not the top gun anymore. And yeah, man, thank you guys for watching. See you guys later. Peace.